Just welcome to another video on the Inside Spurs channel. Happy Friday evening. And breaking news earlier, I was at work, so I couldn't post a video. But Spurs have not only signed one left back, they're about to sign a second left back in Andy Robertson. So we're going to talk about Andy Robertson. Got a bit of Bergvall sad news surrounding a injury layoff. So we're talking about Curtis Jones from Liverpool. So Spurs and Liverpool getting into beds in this transfer window. So we're talking about that. But yeah, I mean, first and foremost, if you've been a viewer of this channel for the years that I have been a YouTuber, you will know I have been begging for a left back. You know, I've said for all along, hey, I love Ben Davies, but it's time. And this was a few years ago. It was time to move on. And, Destiny Adoghy, I love Destiny. And it was like, Jed Spencer's now the left back. And I've always been clamouring for an actual left back. And obviously Spurs have signed Sousa, but obviously a youngster, needs time to settle, new country, new culture, new language, all that stuff being, something that we're going to talk about. But I want to talk about Andy Robertson. It's such an odd one. This was such a weird out of the blue bomber from David Ornstein, who put an exclusive saying that Tottenham Hotspur are working on a deal to sign Andy Robertson from Liverpool. Tottenham brought forward plan to vie for the 31-year-old left back as a free agent in the summer. Not done, but talks between all parties advancing in bid to reach an agreement. Now, that was obviously then followed up by Fabrizio Romano talking about the situation and sort of giving a bit more of an update really on it. And this was only a couple of hours ago, saying that Spurs have sent an official bid for Andy Robertson as Liverpool and Spurs are in advanced talks for the left-back, negotiations well underway with Tottenham on it. So, by all the sounds of things, the next guy up is going to be Andy Robertson. Now, there's a few schools of thought on this for me, and I'd love to know what you guys think. And There's a school of thought that, look, it's another old guy. Teams get off of players on the wrong side of 30 because, do you know what? They're a depreciating asset. They're not as good as they're going to be, in the next year or two. There's also, in my school of thought, Andy Robertson's still probably their best left back at Liverpool. Kirkez, I think, has struggled. I think going forward, Kirkez obviously very good, but defensively, rash, jumps in, makes a ton of mistakes. Robertson seems to be a bit more consistent. Maybe doesn't have, in terms of his best performance, the higher upside as Kirkez, but his floor is much higher than Kirkez's, and I think that's probably quite fair. And Robertson has been, probably the best left back in the Premier League really for a good few years. And I think the world of Destiny Adoghy, and I said that probably Destiny when he first came in that first season Spurs, I said he's probably the best left back in the league now. Regardless of that, Robertson was the guy for years at Liverpool, fantastic in that Liverpool defence. He's going to bring some leadership. He's going to bring some qualities like that. He can still play. He is still an actual left back as well, which is quite nice. And he's going to bring something of a winner's mentality. He's a bit of a... I don't want to swear on the channel because I never do, but he ruffles the feathers of the other team, and he did it against us a few times. And I was like, I can't stand Andy Robertson. Great player, but can't stand him. And I've always said there's a lot of players in that squad at Spurs, the good ones, that I always thought, I can't stand him, and I love them. James Maddison, I was like, oh God, James Maddison, I can't stand him. As soon as you get that player, you go, oh, I can absolutely see why when he plays for your team, you absolutely love him. And Robertson could be that. Will he be a long-term solution? Absolutely not. Really a couple of years maximum. And look, he can still play. He will still help. He will bring experience to this squad that kind of could do with it. I think a lot of Spurs fans have gone too far the way of he's old. He's too old. It's this, that, and the other. We've got a really young squad, and actually a few older heads could really be helpful, He's better than Ben Davies, absolutely. So it is an upgrade on losing Ben Davies for the season. It's an upgrade. There's no doubt about it. But it's what the big teams do the different of. That, we'll get rid of this player, we bring in the replacement. Haven't really done it. So let's see. But yeah, it looks like that's progressing for Robbo to be joining Spurs. Moving on, a little bit of news on Lucas Bergvall. High ankle sprain, obviously gets injured against Dortmund and looks like he's having surgery. So looks like he's going to be out for a little while, which is a shame. I thought there was something there when you saw Bergvall and Gray playing together with Simmons in front. And I was like, that's a really young core that you could potentially build around. But it is a shame. It happens. Unfortunately, it happens too much at Spurs. We wish Lucas Bergvall all the best. But I want to talk about Curtis Jones because it was a few days ago that Paul Joyce put out that Spurs, so Curtis Jones has been attracting interest from Tottenham. Now, I thought nothing of it. I thought, he's been playing good amounts of football for Liverpool. He's been not a frequent starter, but he's been starting games. Obviously, you've got Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberg. He's been sort of that fourth guy as well in that sort of rotation. And he played a little bit of fullback as well before and things like that. And actually, I've been quite impressed with Curtis Jones last season, especially in the title-winning season. I thought he was a good player. I thought he really developed from a guy who I thought was severely underwhelming a year or two before that to being one of their better players actually last season. I thought, there was a real progression in his performances. So that was 4 days ago. And then there's more exclusive reports coming out that Spurs have made an inquiry for Curtis Jones with a loan with an option to buy. They're talking about the option to buy is around about 30 million. I don't think that's awful, to be honest. Obviously, Liverpool are going to want to get a replacement in. He's got a contract that expires not this summer, the summer after, summer of 2027. He's the right side of 30, unlike Andy Robertson. I think actually it's homegrown, and Spurs again have some issues with homegrown. It's always trying to get ahead of that. It's always if you have a filter and you put more in the top, more comes at the bottom. But you always need to keep replenishing it. And Spurs, with, let's be real, a poor academy for the last few years, haven't progressed and haven't pushed through enough quality homegrown, even club academy, but homegrown. Curtis Jones, homegrown. Gallagher, homegrown. And unlike some of our other midfielders, durable. Obviously, Pape's back and Biss is back. And so there is a few players starting to come back, but obviously they're only, other than Pape's Champions League, obviously eligible. But, in the Premier League, you still got, Biss, I know, probably over and done with this summer, but it's something there. Obviously, Pape, Gallagher's there, Simmons, you got Gray, Bergvall's out, Bentancur's out pretty much the rest of the season. Paulinho probably is back this weekend, if not the game after. So there is bodies coming back, but I quite like the Curtis Jones move. I do. I think he's a good player. I just think, you've got three guys in the Liverpool midfield who, look, Liverpool, yes, maybe is struggling a little bit this season. They're still a very good side. Let's not discredit that. There's a few players that maybe have fallen off a little bit in form, but they're still a very, very solid team, and they'll beat anyone on their day still to this day. It's not, they're only a few months removed from winning the title. I think Curtis Jones is a really good player, and I actually think Liverpool might be a bit foolish to move on from him, to be honest, because, I think he's academy trained. I assume he is. So it's another one that you might be losing there. But I think, if you're looking at a Robbo Curtis Jones double swoop, I don't see that as bad business. Okay, yes, Robbo short term, but Curtis Jones, I quite like him. Good on the ball, happy to get in the challenge, happy to get feisty. Can play a little bit of 6, can play a little bit of 8. I think for 30 million for homegrown, that's already 15 million English tax. I don't think it's an awful deal. I have to wait and see. I don't know if it will come to fruition. I think, if Liverpool need to sign a replacement, you've got a week left of the transfer window. We'll have to wait and see. But if it was to come to fruition, I don't think it's a bad one. You're adding Gallagher and Jones into the midfield. You're probably moving on from Bissouma at some point. Paulinho, we'll see if we keep him or not. Bentancur, we'll see if we keep him or not going into the summer, but we shall see. But thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below on Bergvall's injury, Jones, Robbo, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Take care. Peace.